We have got a weird fall storm beginning to dive its way on down out of the Pacific Northwest and moving into the Mountain West before heading into the plains. This storm is going to trigger severe weather and bring a little cool air with it. I've got all the details on that, as well as a tropical update on the potential for a storm to develop right off the Carolina coastline and drag up the East Coast. That's all coming up in this video. Alright, I appreciate you joining me here at One Nation Weather. Go ahead and hit the like button. That helps me get this video out to more people. Let's talk about the overall notes about this storm. It will move into the Mountain West by the time we head towards midweek, triggering storms in the plains and some mountain snow. You can see that cool air in the upper levels of the atmosphere there on the left side image, and on the right side you can see all that lightning flash density that the European model is showing. Now, your severe weather risk for your Tuesday, this is for your tomorrow, your September 19th, 2023, as I'm filming this. A piece of energy ahead of the new storm will spark severe storms, and this is a level 2 severe weather risk for portions of North Texas, just north and west of the Dallas area, heading on up into most of the eastern part of Oklahoma, as well as portions of central Oklahoma especially. So let's go ahead and break this system down. We've got a little bit of low pressure developing, and really anywhere east of the panhandle of Texas is pretty much going to be in the bullseye for this storm, and west of the Arkansas border. But if you live in the far western panhandle of Oklahoma or Texas, I would not be worried about this storm in terms of the impacts. Now, there will be a little bit of rain out ahead of this in the morning that could help to put a damper on the atmosphere, and it's certainly going to help to lower the tornado threat and some of those instability levels for the atmosphere during the afternoon. But notice how we go towards around 4, 5, 6 o'clock Central Time. That's when we're going to begin to see these storms fire on up along a boundary. I'm using the NAM model for this because I feel like it used a little bit of a better perspective on these storms as they begin to develop in a scattered fashion initially, forming into a few complexes as the night goes on. I'm not saying it's going to look like this nasty bow segment we're seeing getting going here in northern Oklahoma, but I would certainly at least be ready for some sort of MCS, maybe a mesoscale convective system, to try to develop here. And basically what that is just a larger complex of storms with an area of spin at the northern end of it. No, that does not mean tornadoes. It just means it's going to be an enhanced boundary for some thunderstorms. But overall, that looks like a weaker chance, and this is really just going to form some bigger blobs. I hate to use that word when talking about meteorology, but that's really what this is. And as this pushes on down towards the south around midnight, this will encounter the Oklahoma City Norman area, and then start to push on down into northern Texas as we head into your Wednesday. Now, let's look at some of the upper air wind flow that we're seeing that's really supporting this system. We're getting an area of winds pushing on in out of the south and the west. This is really an area on the southern jet stream and the subtropical jet force there, and it's going to begin to push on through the next few days. But notice this area of energy pushing out of the southwest, and then of course that is the one that's going to be this new big storm, the one I just hovered over there in the Pacific Northwest. You can see that area diving on down, and that is really what's going to be our energy and our storm maker as we head towards the end of this week and into the weekend, which is why we're going to have a weird prolonged event of some scattered showers and storms, as well as the potential for some severe weather and flooding across the plains as we head towards this upcoming weekend. Now, you can see that energy coming on down, and you can see how you can almost make out that low pressure system with some of that air swirling on around on the north side of it there into portions of Montana, but really the strong boundary of westerly winds pushing here into the plains, and this goes all the way back to the Four Corners region. So yes, we know it's going to hit there, but is this going to make it all the way east to the Great Lakes? Some of the models, and a lot of the models honestly, are showing this fizzling out by then. But if you live in the plains, I would certainly monitor this very closely. Again, there's that lightning flash density map just lit up from portions of Minnesota all the way back to Texas with the map showing that lightning will be in high concentrations late week according to the European model. This is specifically Thursday evening with some of the storms there, and Thursday might be a very active day in the severe weather potential. So I've analyzed the models, I've done the dirty work. Let's go ahead and get a look at what our severe weather potentials are going to be day by day using my analysis. So here we go into our Wednesday. This is your severe certainty map. Overall, a level 1 out of 5 risk is what I'm expecting, but this is going to go from portions of the Dakotas as well as far southern Minnesota, and especially stretch on down into a secondary risk zone there as well, heading on down just east of the Red River Valley and into that Red River Valley, and then heading on off towards the east from there into the Arklatex. But as we go into your Thursday, that's when I think the severe weather risk is really going to get amplified just a little bit more, and we're talking about a level 2 out of 5 severe weather threat stretching from South Dakota all the way on down to eastern Oklahoma. But notice how this is more of a shield across the plains. We could get a tornado threat out of this, but again, this is looking like overall that is not the main threat throughout this week. And then as we go into our Friday, zooming in on that, you can see a level 1 risk, and you can almost see this curl I put on there due to the low pressure system and swirling on back into far eastern portions of the Rockies and Front Range. This will stretch on down towards portions of the Mississippi River Valley, but overall it's going to stay west of that. and stay into portions of Iowa, Missouri, as well as the Arklatex region, with some severe weather. So not a major outbreak, but the plains should certainly continue to keep an eye on this, as the models are showing 1,000 millibar low entering the plains by the end of the week. This is some ensemble members combining together, and really what a 1,000 millibar low is, that's strong enough to have, a considerably strong tropical storm if this were to be over the water. And speaking of a tropical storm, I'll be talking about one of those in just a minute. But you can see how that's going to be really over the plains, and it's going to begin to push on off towards the east. So that's something I definitely just want you to keep your eyes on. And how much rain are we going to be seeing out of this system? Locally high rain totals above 2 inches could start up some minor to moderate flooding issues. I expect this to come over a few rounds of storms, though. So overall, immediate severe weather and flooding concerns are not high, but in terms of for this time of the year, they are on the higher side. Basically, what I mean by that is that we're seeing the potential for at least some minor to moderate severe weather, as well as the flooding, which is why I want you to have your eyes on this, especially in the portions of the southern plains, and then look back into the Dakotas as well. An inch or two of rain being the overall average, but some spots seeing 2 to 4. Another spot we could see some 2 to 4s, or maybe even more, is in the snow department here in the portions of Idaho, Nevada, even the far eastern Sierra Nevada range there into portions of California. We're also seeing this stretch on into the Rockies, just in a splotchy manner. But you could find some of your areas, if you have a ski resort you like in this zone, anywhere you're seeing some of the purples on your screen, that's where you're especially looking at the chance to get up closer to a foot. Watch for that in western Wyoming. Now, a new area to watch is developing right off the east coast. It has a 30% chance of development as of earlier today, but the National Hurricane Center is constantly increasing the chance of a tropical storm forming by the end of the weekend. There was no chance, then 20%, then 30%, likely going up right after I film this video. We'll see if that happens. But let's go ahead and talk about what the wind energy with this storm is going to do. So let's go ahead and begin playing this out. Starting now, what you can't see on your screen with this lower level wind and the lower level jet that we're looking at here is that there's a full cold front that's draped right along the Florida coast, and it's really a stationary boundary at this point. Notice how by the time we head towards your September 21st, we're talking about towards the end of the week, we're looking at a low pressure system beginning to bring some winds right along the South Carolina and North Carolina coast. Overall, Florida not going to be too strongly impacted by this system, but it's really just lingering along a boundary, and you can just see how it comes to life. You're not seeing any reds or pinks developing, which is good. That means that this is going to be a pretty sprawling system as opposed to a very strong system, but we're at least talking about the potential for a weak subtropical or tropical storm to get going here, maybe 2 pieces of energy within that. And look at how this really drags up the east coast and into portions of the mid-Atlantic and even the northeastern states, which is why I would watch out for the winds as well as hefty rain in those areas, as this new storm could trigger some flooding along the east coast. This is a combination of some of the model runs, and notice how some of the heavier totals could even be on the higher side there into portions of Boston, Massachusetts, with a couple of inches of rain out of the system. You could see that perfect line with this going up in that direction, but it's really right along the east coast where I would watch for at least an inch of rain, maybe some minor flooding concerns, but even heading up and banking against the Appalachians, we could see some at least 20, maybe 30 mile per hour wind gusts coming in from the north as this wraps around. So just monitor that closely. This is not an extreme tropical threat. We don't have anything extreme going on, but certainly some severe weather and tropical threats to watch.